Okay, and we are back. So, in today's live stream, we are going to be talking about diving into Reactor to create cinematic pads and evolving sounds and textures. So, this is perfect for adding depth and atmosphere to your music. And stick around by the end of this session because you'll have a patch that you can use to expand your projects. And let's get started. So when you start up in Reaktor, you're going to open up the program or the software, and you're going to be greeted with a page that has the option to play instruments that are inside a Reaktor, patch together some modules, or build from scratch. Today we're going to build from scratch. We can use the build section and build our patches out. And when you enter the build section, we're going to enter the player section and use the blocks, the pre-built blocks in Reaktor to put together some sounds of our own. So the first module we're going to need is a note in module. That's a utility module that helps us in all of our projects. That's what they're called, a utility, because they're useful. And we're going to connect that note in the next to the next component. We're going to need another component, which is our oscillator. That is the next component we'll need. And we'll use this with a sawtooth wave. And the reason we're choosing a sawtooth is because it has rich harmonic content, which is great for our pads and our cinematic pads. Then we're going to connect a VCA, grab a VCA in there. VCA modules help us control the amplitude of our sound. And we're going to grab an envelope generator, and that's going to help us to control the amplitude over time and create a smooth swelling characteristic to our pad. We're going to rename that to an amp ADSR. Once we rename that to amp ADSR, we're then going to grab some other modules that we're going to need. We're going to need one more, which is a filter, and that's going to help us to filter our tones from high to low. And we're going to connect that to VCA. We're going to mostly be interested in the low pass filter to filter out those and modulate the lower frequencies. And then we're going to layer in another oscillator probably. We'll duplicate that. We'll call this one oscillator 1. And we'll call the second one oscillator 2. And we'll layer them together, and that will basically help us create something that's more rich and has more depth and dynamics in it. So the final module I'm going to link up is a reverb. I'm going to go into the blocks and grab myself a reverb. So that's the last thing we're going to need. Next, we're going to connect them up, and we'll talk about that, and I'll walk you through steps. And so we're going to connect up our modules, our pitch to pitch, and then we'll add in a mix. Go back to blocks, and we'll bring in a mix module. So that'll look like something like the mix will look like that. We'll bring that in and connect it up. Then we'll add in our envelope, and the envelope will be connected to the amp, and then we'll connect that mix out to our VCA. And I forgot one step. We're actually going to connect the filter in between that so we can filter our tones. Yeah, that looks right. And then we're going to go out through the effects chain, and there we go. So before we do that, actually, I'm going to connect up just my amp to my output source. I'm going to remove the connections to our effects until we're done shaping our sound. So that's important that you can shape it and hear what you're making. So next, we're going to turn up the input on our VCA, which is our depth. We still can't hear anything because we need to turn up both mix of both oscillators. Now Now we got a sound, a raw tone. We can see and visualize that sound by adding in a scope. So I'm gonna just pull in and add a scope here. Visualize the waveform and see exactly what it looks like. So we got a raw waveform we're working with. So we can now shape that to anything we want. So we can detune one of them slightly, couple cents, gives a thicker tone. Give us a more complex waveform. Then we can filter out. Get us a more complex tone, filter out some high frequencies. Add a little resonance bump. Makes her sound more pokey. Give some envelope for attack. Make our sound more staccato if we want. We'll make it more legato if we want. Delay the attack. Increase the release. Okay, so there we have it. We have our sound. Just got to experiment, play around with the knobs in a, I guess, within bounds. You can really experiment by knowing what sound you want to create first of all, and then creating within those bounds so that you can come up with something new and original, and that really sparks your interest and makes you excited to do sound design. So this is what I came up with. I've added in my reverb. There we have it. A cinematic pad with evolving textures, but built entirely in Reaktor. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and share, and subscribe for more sound design tips. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions or ideas for future streams. And thanks for joining. I'll see you on the next one. One last thing, I'm just going to reorganize my panel. Just put my amp at the end. And my mix knobs at the top. And my oscillators in order. Filter. Yep. That looks pretty good to me. Peace out.